Mankind has always gazed out into the immensity of space, pointing telescopes at the skies and hoping to hear even a whisper that we are not alone. Scientists have patiently waited for a signal, a glimmer of light or a sound at a distance that will prove intelligent life elsewhere in the universe. But when that day finally did come, it did not originate from the distant edge of a far-off galaxy or a lost civilization deep in the stars. It originated instead from an object traveling through our solar system, an interstellar traveler whose scientists came to call 3I Atlas. Astronomers were enchanted by its bizarre emerald glow, its periodical bursts of energy, and its refusal to conform to any known comet for months. But curiosity soon gave way to awe and terror, for Atlas's mystery proved to extend far beyond anyone's imagination. Telescopes across the globe verified the unthinkable. Atlas was not firing random shots of energy. It was transmitting, firing careful and focused pulses directly at Mars. Then, in a moment which broke the very ground of scientific conceit, Mars reacted. For the first time ever in human history, Earth's sensors picked up what seemed to be two-way communication between a stellar visitor from outside the stars and a nearby planet we had long believed barren. If it were true, then our knowledge of Mars, the universe, and indeed our own position within it was set to be changed forever. The event started quietly, as so many revolutionary discoveries do, with findings that sounded too bizarre to accept. Astronomers had already observed that Atlas throbbed with breathtaking regularity. Its emerald light flared and faded every 173 minutes with a regularity too perfect to be explained naturally. But then, a pulse disrupted the pattern. Unlike the others that dispersed outward into space, this one condensed into a narrow beam directed directly at Mars. Orbiters orbiting the red planet picked up a momentary spike in radiation strong enough to illuminate its tenuous atmosphere in glittering green. At first, scientists wrote it off as a fluke or solar noise. But when it repeated, same length, same strength, same angle, the verdict was inescapable. Atlas was sending a signal. And then the reply came. In mere seconds, satellites that surround Mars detected electromagnetic pulses from the Martian surface. The frequencies were identical to Atlas's but had fluctuations, as if Mars was not just echoing the energy, but modifying it. There were those who believed that these were rebounds resonating within the planet's flimsy magnetic field, but closer examination broke down that hypothesis. The pulses were too calculated, too coherent, timed with precise intervals and modulated in patterns that implied intellect. Later, faint harmonics started reverberating back to Earth as if Mars was boosting the message and relaying it further. To the researchers analyzing the data, it seemed as though Atlas had posed a question and Mars had responded. Later, the shaking started. Seismic sensors deployed by previous missions began to detect rhythmic quivering in the depths of Mars's crust. These tremors became perfectly synchronized with the interstellar pulses, leaving patterns that resembled less chaos and more a heartbeat. The planet's surface itself vibrated, in tune with the extraterrestrial visitor. Spectrograms converted the vibrations into graphics, spirals, triangles, and hexagons that were exactly the same as the glowing shapes in Atlas's emerald light. This was no longer chance. Mars wasn't simply resonating energy, it was communicating. Some scientists suggested that an underground system, maybe an ancient device within the ground, had been activated. Others braved the possibility that Mars itself was living, a planet that could react to a cosmic summons. As Atlas and Mars maintained their bizarre communication, Earth started to resonate. Radio telescopes from continents detected wispy harmonics reminiscent of the Martian echoes. Scientists discovered geometric patterns embedded within static, the same as that of Atlas's signal. Most of these results vanished mysteriously from web records and research servers, but remnants remained. Governments did not explain, and NASA kept a sinister silence. But the truth circulated. Humankind was no longer a silent witness. We were listening in on a dialogue between worlds. Then even Mars's moons participated in the exchange. Phobos, the inner moon, started to reflect electromagnetic bursts timed with Mars's signals, serving as a relay station magnifying the conversation. Deimos, more distant, flashed weak green light detected by telescopes on Earth. These responses were too synchronized, too calculated to be coincidence. In some way, the entire Martian system had come to life, as if all rock and moons had been in anticipation of Atlas's emergence. And then the silence of our rovers. Initially, they worked as usual, sending regular images and data. But when Atlas's pulses grew stronger, their signals started breaking down. One transmitted files mingled with lines of green static, another took one fuzzy picture of the horizon radiating abnormally before completely shutting down. Earth's engineers struggled to reassert control, but the machines were silent. A final flood of data from one rover uncovered repeating prime numbers, the same numerical codes concealed within Atlas's signal. The finding was appalling. The rovers had joined the resonance. Radio observatories from Australia to Chile picked up weak signals at the same frequencies as Atlas and Mars within days. They felt stationary initially, but further study revealed recurring prime sequences, growing stronger when Mars spun certain areas into orbit. The planet's surface itself seemed to have become a broadcasting device. Although official records were erased, sufficient proof existed to verify a ghastly reality: the conversation had arrived on Earth. And maybe it was now intended for us. Watchers worldwide started observing something remarkable. Shimmering geometric motifs rolled through Mars's atmosphere, spirals, grids, and lattices radiating in emerald colors, in perfect harmony with the throbs between Atlas and Mars. Satellite imaging verified they corresponded to exact mathematical proportions, golden spirals, triangular symmetry, and ancient geometrical constants. The message was not just being sent, it was being inscribed across the Martian horizon. Mankind, long an outside observer, was now interpreting symbols that appeared to be made for us. The seismic activity on Mars became more intense by leaps and bounds. What had been a quiet world now shook in rhythmic tremors that were in sync with Atlas's energy spikes. Spectrograms showed the same spirals and polygons hidden in the vibrations, as if Mars itself was a gargantuan resonant instrument. Scientists were compelled to think the unthinkable: Mars was not merely responding. It was crafting the conversation with purpose. Next was the phenomenon that could be seen even with the naked eye. Amateur astronomers saw emerald glows moving on top of Mars, creating glowing arcs and waves. The lights flashed in sync with Atlas's signals, drawing massive symbols on the planet's atmosphere. The red planet seemed to be shrouded in brilliant fire for hours. Skeptics attributed the phenomenon to atmospheric ionization, but the patterns were much too coherent to be a natural occurrence. Mars was now broadcasting its part of the signal for everyone to see. But as the world watched in awe, Earth started to fail. Communication networks were subject to coordinated blackouts. Telescopes, radar, even satellites went dark, their information crashing to green static. The interference timed perfectly with the interplanetary pulses, propagating across multiple frequencies like an infection. The realization dawned: Earth's technology was now included in the resonance. We were being pulled into the same cycle that had taken the Martian rovers. When snippets of the interrupted broadcasts were reassembled, what they contained rendered scientists stunned. Concealed in the static were patterns of prime numbers, recurring ratios, and encoded harmonics that mimic human systems of logic. The resonance was not chaotic energy, it was data. Worse, the modulation was not coming from Atlas, but from Mars. The planet was decoding the interstellar message into something familiar, something Earth could understand. More intense scrutiny of Mars's seismic reflections revealed enormous hollow chambers under the ground, huge voids in geometric shape, too symmetrical to be anything but man-made. Some posited that they were leftovers of volcanic outbursts, but others thought they had been built, acoustic structures designed for amplification. Mars, it appeared, had always been engineered to respond. It wasn't a world, it was an instrument waiting to be called by Atlas. Meanwhile, Phobos's orbit started to change. The small moon's fall towards Mars rapidly gained speed and stabilized in tandem with the pulses. High-resolution images revealed glowing cracks of green light shooting across its surface. Whether through stress or activation, the result was unmistakable. Phobos was waking too. As the oddities grew, bizarre green auroras started to manifest on Earth, not only around the poles, but over deserts and oceans, glowing softly in locations that would have been pitch black. Amateur radio operators heard rhythmic tones embedded in static, eerily musical, as if an extraterrestrial chant. Man was no longer a distant observer. We were within the resonance, our world vibrating to the same beat that had tied Mars and Atlas together. The question now was inescapable: if Mars had replied, would Earth soon be forced to respond too? Old records assumed fresh significance. Myths from Sumer, Egypt, and the Maya mentioned twin stars, green fires, and God stirring Mars. Previous considered to be myth, these narratives now reflected the cycle playing out before our eyes. Carvings illustrated beams connecting two bodies in space, and inscriptions spoke of a serpent of light speaking to the red planet. The geometric symbols were the same as those now observed in Atlas's radiance. This was not chance, it was repetition. A pattern being repeated over centuries. For months now, humanity has witnessed 3I Atlas violating all the known laws of nature. It is broken in two, with one piece heading towards the Sun, the other towards Mars. The pulses hitherto thought to be random now reveal themselves to be purposeful and intelligent. Mars has responded, in its skies, in its crust, in its moans. Even Phobos radiates with cracks of emerald fire, as if awakened after millennia. And Earth itself now vibrates with the reverberations. NASA stays quiet, sealing information and shutting down broadcasts. Their silence is louder than words, though. Atlas is not a comet, nor an astrophysical fluke. It is a messenger, a catalyst meant to stir sleeping worlds. Mars has had its say. Earth is starting to resonate. And Atlas goes on, somewhere out there among the stars, waiting for the next reply. The question now is no longer what Atlas is, but what comes next. Because if the cycle has started anew, then the next world to wake up might be our own.